So that's good. That's the first one of the month, though. It's been a slow start to the month for me.
So, group 40-person group in a small business plan.
Yeah, and a small biz pro. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that in the process of us talking about some of these answers to some of these questions that we got over here. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Well, good evening, everybody. How you doing, John?
Hey, Adrian. Good evening. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great.
Great.
I'll give you a call sometime this week.
It's time for us to call the company in North Dakota again, isn't it? Almost.
It's almost time. Yes, it is.
Yes.
And also, this one here in El Paso, also that you referred me to.
Good. Yeah, we'll give that a call. Yes.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody.
Anthony.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are things in Ohio over there?
Actually, it's good,
It is?
It's good. And congratulations opening up your group.
Congratulations on your Bengals.
I'm close to the Browns, actually.
Oh, you are? Okay. Well,
But it's still Ohio, so, we'll take it all.
yes.
Yeah. So I'm right there with you. I opened up my first group for this year.
Great.
Yeah. Today.
Mr. Norris.
Today, actually.
Mr. Norris, quick, don't put your business out there like that, because I'm gonna call on you in a second. I know you. So I don't need to see text first and let you know, can you be on the call or not? You done told me your business, so now I'm gonna call you out now. So
Okay.
just know that.
It's training though, right?
Huh? That's right. That's right. We like that real life.
I second the motion on that.
There you go. Yeah, so your partner, and she gonna throw you under the bus right along with me. That's your partner down there.
Yeah.
So we have some questions, guys, that you guys are asking, and again, follow up quicker, learn to close, locking in the research, consistency and time management, getting back out after you've been ill, learning how to have fun while you're prospecting, overcoming objections, cross-selling, setting appointments, field training, better sales and customer service, capitalizing on new penalties and new laws that we see coming on. How do we use that to talk to different trucking companies and logistics companies? Understanding the paperwork better, and doing some email marketing. That email marketing thing, I'm gonna try to make that all one thing when I do it, which won't be today, because we're gonna talk about sample emails and subject lines. But I'm gonna give you guys a quick tip before, so y'all can be practicing this before we get into emails, because this might help when we go to talk about emails. Some of you guys, if y'all use this tip now, when we go to talk about it, y'all might be able to say, hey, I started using that. And when I started using that, it ended up putting me in a better position when I started sending my emails. And you may have a good testimonial for us when we do that. So I'm gonna start by giving you guys a tip on that. And then we're gonna go to some things now, because I was looking at this list of questions and which ones we were gonna answer, spend more time on, but I'm now gonna make them relative to the opening of those groups and things, especially in the beginning of the year, because obviously with some closing going on, how much follow-up was going on when you did those groups and all that stuff. But I'm gonna show you guys a site that you can go to. And some of you guys may already know this site, but I use this site for my email subject lines, and I use it when I'm sending emails as far as the subject that I'm gonna be sending emails on, so I can get the attention of the person that I'm prospecting. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you're prospecting, you have to get the attention when it comes to email marketing, which is part of what you guys are going to have to work on at some point in the future, because knocking on the doors is not going to last forever. Does that make sense? Like, you've got to know that you got to be able to pick up the phone, and you got to be able to run your business through email campaigns and all that kind of stuff. And I think you guys are going to realize that more and more as you move forward, that's going to be, you can do it in mass. The percentages are lower when you're doing it, but you can do way more of that. And you can be versatile, because you can not have a vehicle and do it. You can stay home if you got kids and do it. You can stay home if you're a caregiver and do it. If you got reasons why you can't leave the house every single day, then this is a great way to follow up on people and keep the business going. So before I get to that little tip with the site that I'm gonna show you and go to it, let us do the quick introduction before we get started. I know Sharon will be on here shortly, But I'm gonna get started with John, and then I'll do my introduction, and then of course when Sharanda Ivy gets on, you guys know her already as well. If for any reason anybody doesn't know her, then as you continue to stick with us every week, you'll definitely get a chance to hear Sharanda Ivy's introduction. So John, go ahead and take it away, brother.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. And I'm John Hoffman. I'm the West Coast certified CDLP trainer, and I've been in the business 15 years. Been easy qualified after COVID. I had to restart again after COVID because I let it go because I was afraid to go out there, and found out I have to go out there. They weren't going to knock on my door, and got back on the PC club and back on that big bonus again, the $500 bonus that appears every month. And it's a nice thing this company gives us, an extra $6,000 a year if you think about it that way. And I'm specialized in opening targeting companies with groups and small business plans. I tie them together, and I show the owners how those plans work together. So it's a vast market in the transportation business where you can offer everything that we have. And that's the beauty of the CDLP portion of the Legal Shield. All right, Robert. I tried to take up as much room as Sharanda does, but I ran out of words.
I think she on too now. Sharanda, I know you just got on, but if you can do a quick introduction, that'd be fantastic. Let me find you so I can make you co-host. And let me get her pinned up here. Oh, she may not be ready yet. Okay, let me go ahead and do my introduction real quick. So Robert Dunbar, I've been with Legal Shield for going on 14 years. And all right, been with Legal Shield almost 14 years, been training for almost 8 years. Love the business, love the opportunity to work with everybody and do the training. And most of you guys know that that's pretty much most of what I do nowadays is just training and helping people move to the next level, because that's kind of what I love to do. It's kind of what I'm passionate about. So anything I can do as an associate to really help you guys move forward in your sales, in picking up those new clients, working with those new clients, I try to help as much as I can. So some of you guys have reached out to me in the past, and I try to do 3-way calls here and there and try to help whenever I can get you moving ahead. I'm a 100K ringer, 250K ringers on my team, and I work pretty much every aspect of Legal Shield over the 14 years. I've been in every department doing different things. But to me, because I'm a big niche marketer, I love marketing to a group of people that I know everything I offer is just what they need, because it's easier to convert those people. So that's kind of the world I live in. So that is my quick introduction. And when Sharanda Ivy shows gets ready, I'll have her do an introduction at some point in there. But we're gonna go ahead and get started with the information now. Before I go into these group openings and things like that. So you guys, and remember guys, when I'm talking to John or talking to Sharanda or talking to Anthony Norris or whoever we happen to be talking to, that's still an opportunity, guys, to take notes. And sometimes we forget when we hear somebody's story to take notes, because we're thinking like, oh, okay, I can chill out. It's just somebody telling their story or talking about something that they did. But what they did is actually real life, what you should be taking notes on, because that means that that's something that you can do to get what they got if you're looking to do that. And I'm assuming that you want to open up a 40-person group. I'm assuming that you want to open up the size group that Anthony Norris just opened up. I'm assuming that you want to cross-sell that small business plan when you do it at the same time. So again, this tip is ahead of time. It's separate from what we're going to talk about today, but I'm just giving you this so you can start prepping and using this ahead of time. So I'm going to share my screen real quickly here. And what I'm going to do is probably going to take about 30 seconds to show you guys. So if you look at my screen right now, I'm gonna go up here to something I have, and I have it right across here on my toolbar. This is how much I use it, right? It's called a headline generator. It's called a headline generator, and you'll see the title over here, right up here in the top. It says title-generator.com. Title-generator.com, and I'm also going to take this and drop it in the chat, so you guys can grab it right out of there as well. And what I do with this, and you can do several different things with it, but what I do for it is I use it to come up with subject lines and titles for emails that I'm going to send. Does that make sense? So if I'm going to send an email and I can't think of a catchy title to put in the email to get John to open it because I'm sending it out to a logistics company, right? So I could go here and I could say, this might not work, but I'm doing it because I'm doing it real time. I can say CSA warns, and I can put that right in this bar. CSA warns, and then I can click get headlines, and it's going to give me 600-700 variations of things I can say with that, which helps me create ideas of what to put in my subject line, right? And it'll pull this up, and this is free, guys. This is not something that you pay for. It's just a site that I use, and it helps me come up with titles. And this is a way that you can come up with titles for your email so that they'll open them, things like that. So it says apply these 5 techniques to improve CSA warns. And again, some of it is not going to make sense because this system don't know what CSA warns mean. I'm just putting it in there because it's giving me different variations. And I always find something that when I go through this, I'll look and then I'll put something together in my head, but either something that they say exactly word for word, or maybe it's just something that's a variation, and then I can turn it around and make it a subject line. But this kind of gets me flowing when I'm looking for a good subject line or a way to start an email, a subject line within an email, so I have something that I can talk about shortly. Because remember, when you're doing email marketing, it's not about selling, it's about educating, because the educating turns into sales, if that makes any sense. So that's really what that's about. So you can put anything in here if you want. You can put, let me see, like you can change it right here. So it says your main word right here. So you can put whatever you want to hear, logistics. And I can hit generate titles. And after I put in logistics, and it's just gonna give me a whole bunch of things. So for those that if this makes sense, if you understand how you can use this, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat, right? So it pulls up, right? Make your logistics reality. The biggest lie in logistics. Picture your logistics in top. Find out now, what should you do for fast logistics? It's just giving me all kind of variations of the word that I can use. Trucking in danger. Right? So get creative with it, play around with it, so that when you're sending emails, you can come up with something that's going to make somebody open up, right? Why most trucking in danger feel 5 brilliant ways to use trucking in danger. You don't have to be a big corporation to start trucking in danger. So get creative, put something in there, come up with some headlines. And I normally take good ones that I see and I just drop them on a separate sheet like a Google Doc or Apple Notes or wherever you drop things, or whether you're using Microsoft, it doesn't matter. Just take some of those titles and paste them on a separate sheet so that you can go back to that and look when you're looking to send an email, so you can keep sending different, because you have to do split tests for emails so that you can see if people are opening those emails. And if you change the headline, you may see that people are opening the email. So hopefully that was helpful to everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. I just wanted you guys to see that so you can start using that now. So when we go talk about email marketing, then you guys can say, hey, I started using that. It helped me. I got more emails open, whatever the case may be when that goes on. So I'm gonna stop my share screen, and I'm gonna bother Anthony first. Anthony, where you at? Mr. Norris. Let me bring Anthony Norris up front here.
I'm here.
Hey, brother.
What's going on?
Ain't nothing, man. You know, me and John gonna give you 1-2 real quick.
Okay.
See if we can hit you from the West Coast and from Florida. All the way to Ohio. So I'm gonna ask a couple questions. And John, I mean, same thing with you, man. Just jump in and ask whatever you want to ask. You know what I mean? Just to see if we can get something out of Anthony that will be helpful to the people that's sitting here. So you said you just opened up a group. It's January, a new year. So of course, you know, congratulations first of all. And my first question to you is, how long have you been prospecting this company? Because that's always important, how long it took to convert them over.
3 months.
90 days, all right, good stuff.
Yes.
Good stuff, 90 days. So 90 days to convert the company over, and let me know what the process was. So, because this is helping answer those questions about how often you were following up, What were you doing when you called? Were you emailing when you call it? Did you follow up on the schedule or your calendar? Or did you just randomly call them because you forgot you hadn't called them in 2 weeks? So what was the follow-up process? What did it look like?
Well, since you're just talking about the follow-up process, after we'd have done the research and all that good stuff and found out that they were a prospect, knowing the script and all that stuff, got them on the phone, set the appointment, share with them what I want to talk about and share with them, got the appointment. And from there, everything sounded good to them. And then from there, you know, the follow-up had to come because they're always busy. Okay, they're always busy. The job was just to follow up with them when I said I was going to follow them up with them. And that was like at least once a week, especially because they do not, if they're too busy, didn't answer the phone and like that, just kept the appointment that I had with them. And then whenever we got an opportunity to talk, then finally we were able to do a sit down, okay, face to face, and shared some information with them pertaining to the hot buttons that I saw that needed some help pertaining to the CSA scores. And then at that particular time, you know, everything sounded good. And then he went missing in action for a little bit. And then finally, just a couple weeks ago, he said, okay, I'm ready. And just 2 days ago, got the group authorization signed after the third time of sending the group authorization time. And I expressed that to everybody, stick and stay, because, you know, just never give up. And then finally, I got it and got 5 applications today. And I'm doing a combination of both payroll, deduct, and bank draft. So it's a great day in the neighborhood. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it answered one of them, but you actually answered a bunch of questions with that. But I'm gonna go back to some of that stuff that you said here in a second. John, you want to jump in here? I'm gonna ask you more questions, but I don't want to ask all the questions.
So what type of transportation company was it, Anthony? Was it a 48 state long distance or local or
Yes.
reefers or flatbed?
Yes, they have 53s and owner operator. He's a small guy, so he's across the states lines. For those who don't understand the verbiage, you know, they go across all different states, and yes, they do. So they do them both.
Okay, then what was the attraction to Legal Shield? Do they have high CSA scores or accidents or tickets?
Yes. What they had was the out of services were extremely high, 83% for the trucks and 33.3% for the drivers. So that was, for those who don't know, that's like almost 4 times as high for the vehicles. And man, it's very high for the drivers. It's like what's that, like 6 times high for the drivers. So yeah,
That's pretty up there. Hopefully you'll be in business long enough to get the good running for you. But yes, that's a danger that they have, though. They get those high scores like that, and then you'll find out they get audited and they get put out of service. And so hopefully we're there in time, and you have to really stress that to get all those drivers on it right away and use it.
Yes, and it don't take long for a smaller company to get that high either.
Good stuff. So if you have any questions for Anthony, put them in the chat and we'll ask them for you so he can answer them. I'm gonna go to the chat now. I know I saw somebody ask it was Cynthia Ware. The conversation that where you got the appointment, who were you talking to? The owner, the safety manager? Like, who was your point of contact that got you to close on a deal?
Awesome. That's a good question. Actually, I spoke to the owner, but I asked for the person that handles the DOT tickets and moving violations when I called them. And then from there, that person, based on what I share with them, will then tell me, what I need to know. If I'm not getting it, then I ask who the owner is. But in this case, I spoke with the owner himself. He's a co-owner. I found that out in the conversation.
Anything, John?
No, it's a typical process. It's a lot of follow-up, like he was talking about. That's similar to my group that I had. Not quite 90 days though, but it can drive you crazy. You think you got this person on the line, and they find all kinds of reasons, not to move as fast as you want them to move. And a lot of times, when they get in touch with you, Anthony, maybe something happened in their trucking business that all of a sudden they said, "Okay, we're ready to go now." Because I'm just trying to wonder, maybe something happened that maybe spurred them on to do that all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, as you know, and as you guys get seasoned here, this is just repetitive. You guys know, depending on especially the newer people, you got to be on these trainings. You have to learn how to read the SMS report, and then how to tailor your presentation to that of which you see as their hot button. So that takes some time. But if you're sticking on trainings like this and some of the other trainings on Thursday, you'll get it. I would definitely tell people it's definitely a process, but you have to study. And I will share with you guys that was super, super important. I learned during COVID is to become a student. Like I learned it. I hear everything, but the way I read stuff. I have to know what I'm talking about instead of just taking everybody else's word. I like to study and write down what somebody says and then verify it based on information that I find. So it's just educating yourself and learn the industry. Another thing is with that, once you do that, now you can talk the talk.
That's good. That's good. We got some other questions in here. One, how many times did you call before you got the appointment? Now, I don't know whether you kept track of that or not, but you may be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I got the point. I called him on October 6th, set the appointment that day for October 12th. So that was quick for that. But also to help you, whoever asking that question is, and I'll say it again, once you know how to read the SMS report and you know what script you're using, and like Dunbar was talking about, know what to put in the header when you send out an email, you have to know what you're going to say to attract them to give you an appointment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is this company particularly in several states? Not do they travel state to state, their drivers, but they're only in one state?
Yeah, they're in Ohio.
Only in Ohio. Good stuff. Did you know did that company know that they were in trouble when you contacted them, which goes into research? So when you reached out to this company to go after them, did they know that they had the issues that they had?
Yes, they do. And to answer that question also, I believe they all know they're in trouble. They just don't know what to do and how to resolve it. And what they do is they get stuck and they think that's all the options that they have is whatever they utilize. So what's important for us is to be able to share, build a value proposition on why they should even listen to us, because again, sometimes they believe there's no other options because somebody else may have failed them, or they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So when you pulled this company to do the research, to prospect them in the first place, was there ever a point where, because they were in Ohio, that you went and knocked on the door? Did you see them driving down the street, or did you go somewhere and just pull the company online without ever leaving your house? How was your prospecting looking on that?
The way I prospect is if a truck go past me, I'm taking the numbers down. I don't go on anybody's site or anything like that. It's just when I'm on the road, I see a truck, I write it down, I talk it into my recorder, or don't do this, I take a picture of it, of the DOT numbers. And that's no matter where I'm going. My daughter lives in Columbus, Ohio, you know. I travel and I just get the numbers. Or if I see another place, I get them if they have at a parking lot at Home Depot or Walmart. They're sitting there. So I just take the DOT numbers and do my research accordingly.
So when you pull that company, so let's say you're sitting in the parking lot picking something up, you see a truck, you snap a picture of their DOT number, and then you go and you start doing research on the DOT number. What happens if that truck had not been in Ohio? Would you have to still prospect them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If that, a lot of them are like that. And I like that because when they're not in Ohio, I know they're traveling. So there's no, I don't have to figure out if I know they're going everywhere else. And if they're coming through my state, they're going through other states, which tells me that's a good prospect for me to prospect because there's different laws in every state.
Okay. So you got the information, you went and pulled them up. So how did that research look to you? Like, what did you do? You took the DOT number and then you did what? And before you answer that, real quick, before you answer it, when Anthony Norris is talking, I'm going to grab the video that we trained on doing the research for the people who may have not seen any of those before or might be new to this call for whatever reason or Zoom. And I get it, it's always people that pop up or who've been missing for 2 years because they were doing something else. So if you don't understand the research process, I'm going to drop a video in here where you can look at it where we shot the video on the annual training, but I'm going to still have Mr. Norris walk us through his process just so y'all can still hear it real time, if that makes sense. So, Mr. Norris?
Yes, sir. So you want me to tell you what I do when I pull up a?
Yeah. So when you got that number and you went home, after you got that number, tell us what you did from there as far as getting the information on that company.
Okay. I look up the company, I pull it up in the SMS report with the DOT number. Once I do that, I take a look at the information with the number of vehicles, drivers, inspections, and violations. I look at that for a reason, because I need to know if they have violations, inspections. Example, this had 11 inspections, but 32 violations. That tells me that, those drivers get multiple violations when they're getting pulled over. So that's good for me. Then I mentioned about the out of service percentages for the vehicles and the driver. It was super, super high. Okay. And the reason why I like that is because, again, I see that they need something, because my mindset is violations lead to audits. And that's my lead point when I'm doing this. When I call them and I ask them, are they, when the last time they looked at their SMS report, these are things I will talk about, the things that I pull. So when I pull the vehicles, number of vehicles, drivers, inspection and violations, this is a couple things that I'm looking at in that massive sheet. I'm only looking about for 3 things out of the whole thing. Number one, I'm looking for is any 10-point violations, because that's the maximum that they can get when it comes to severity rate. Because I understand that if a driver gets 2 of those in a 3-year period, they will lose their CDLs for 60 days. That's huge. That's a huge thing for me, because I understand that there's a disconnect between the drivers and the safety team. So that's what I look at. Then I look at speeding, because I understand that speeding kills. Okay. And we know those trucks can't stop, especially on that highway. So I use technically those 2 things, okay, with everybody that I call. because it leads me into my presentation. It's an easy transformation for me to get through the adjudicated citation program. And then also is an easy transition into our service.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I love it. I love it. John, anything?
Yeah, do they also consider the business plan, Anthony, for the business or just for the drivers?
Well, what I do is, and how I like to, especially when I was new, I started in 2013, but started the CDL training for 2019, and we knew what happened between the last 2 years. So I had a lot of time. Too much for me, too much information is too much information. So my brain works. If I'm calling you, I want to talk to the person handling your DOT ticket and moving violation. That's what's going to be my focus. Your DOT tickets and moving violations. And then once I nail them on that, I'm in the building, right? That's all I'm going to talk about. Because in my mind, I've been in transportation. The heartbeat of America are our truckers. Without them, they wouldn't have a job. So their CSA scores that the company has is affected by those violations. So I'm totally into the drivers, protecting those drivers. And once I get them and I'm successful with that, then I will go over to that, yes, the business plan. But I don't put them together. I don't do that yet. And I'm not planning on doing it yet. But I will talk about it if there was nowhere to go.
Good stuff. Good stuff. John, anything else, John?
Well, yeah, and as you go on that SMS report, Anthony, when you go scroll further down into that, that's when you find the things like accidents they had out of state. Maybe a driver got a ticket with an accident, associated with an accident, and of course the trucks got towed away. And those types of situations that can kind of bring the business into fold with it at the same time. Then too, when you can feel comfortable to do it both ways.
Yeah.
And that's a good day, when you get them both like that. Of course, but you had a good day anyway. So that was great. Five memberships.
Yes. And the cool thing is, I can share with everybody is you have to learn it. Like I said, once I learned it through the third annual, like I know the SMS. Like I said, I know what I'm looking at. I see it. And then once you learn the whole thing, it's just like anything, then you just fine tune it to your own personality. There's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, right? To eat it, So yes, so I can go left, right, and I'm comfortable with that now.
That's good. That's good. I'm looking in the chat here. So the safety manager could not progress the conversation with you and suggested that you speak to the owner. Is that what happened?
Well, like I said, the good thing is when I'm talking to whoever it is, like in this person, if I'm talking to the safety man, that's their job. I understand that's their job. That's why they got hired. Okay. So my mindset is, before I talk to the owner, I need to find out with the safety director, what is his or her responsibility in that place? Do you do the data queue? So I'm asking a ton of questions, like Saranda always say. I got a lot of questions. How long you been with the business? How long you been in this area of the business? Who handles the data queue? Do you handle that data queue? No, somebody else does, right? So I'm like, who's that person? Then that's who I found out who did that, but I kept asking that person who was the safety director more questions. When somebody get a violation, run me through that process. And then they do. Then if I find out they're trying to process these warnings or even a citation and never went to court, then I know what other question I'm going to ask. The other question would be, have you ever heard of the adjudicated citation policy? If you don't know what that is, it's the little lady with that was put on the clipboard. I don't know if you guys can see it because I got that backer, but it's a little lady that tells you what the adjudication citation policy is. If they don't know what that is, again, now I know how I can service to be a consultant to that person. I'm not a salesperson first. I need to put that up front. I'm a consultant first. I'm going to ask questions first because they don't know me. So it's important for me to build a friendship. It's not important for me to close them fast. I need to know how I can put myself into their system and be of service to them.
So I think you said something really important there, and I hope nobody missed that. So Sharanda Ivy says, ask a ton of questions, right? So anybody heard her say that before, put a 2 in the chat. If you heard Sharanda say that before, always have a ton of questions to ask. So something really important that you said was, you ask them, John, when you get a violation or citation, when your driver get a citation or violation, what is the process that you take them through? And the reason why that question is so very important is because now you know where we fit in the process at, and you know what's going right or wrong with their process. Now you can gauge from that person. This is where having our program will help the result at the end of this whole process that you're taking. And it also softens John a little bit, so that, because what you'll realize when you start talking to trucking companies, and I'm not using the word arrogant like in the sense that we would normally use it. I'm using arrogant in the sense of a lot of these trucking company owners, they feel like they know more than you because this is what they do for a living and you're selling them something. So they're assuming you're a salesperson and they know logistics. So when you ask them their process, you have now asked them to tell you what they've done. So now they don't feel like you're trying to tell them how to do something like you know better than them, because now you're answering, you're suggesting things based on what they told you. Does that make sense? Does that sound correct, Mr. Norris?
That's spot on. One of the things that I had to learn, even though I may know that their numbers is bad, it's not my responsibility to tell them that they're doing a terrible job. I don't do that. I try to praise them on what they're doing right. And then another question I would ask is, are you happy with the direction that your numbers are going?
I love it.
Okay. It's my responsibility to ask the right questions and let them open up to me. And then when they tell me something and I find out they're telling me the truth, now I can say, okay, that's no longer a suspect, that's a prospect. And then I can go on with the understanding that, okay, this person is either, again, truthful or wasting my time.
Absolutely. It makes the conversation so, I shouldn't even say it makes the conversation so much. It actually makes it a conversation. So, touching again what Mr. Norris said, there's a lot of nuggets in this. And this is what I like about an interview about a process, because you guys got to figure out exactly what's happening. The consultant thing. Now we're having a conversation because now I don't have to say, well, because some of our attitude when we're talking to somebody, we don't really know what they're doing. So I'm talking to John. John Hoffman is the company owner, and I'm looking at his score. I'm looking at, I shouldn't say his score, but I'm looking at I'm researching his CSA and looking at what's happening with violations and citations. And then I say, so John, are you guys having somebody deal with these citation violations? And then John says, yeah, we got somebody taking care of it. And I say, well, they must not be doing a good job because they're still showing up. And that's a lot of times what we'll say. And I know we feel like we have a right to say that, but you turn the conversation into a bad conversation because you're not going to walk in my business and tell me that I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. Even if I don't, this is not about whether it's factual, it's about whether or not it's rubbing me the wrong way. So if I say that to John, and then John is kind of like getting uptight about that, versus I've asked the question. So if I've already asked them their process and they don't say that in there, that they're data queuing and stuff, I'll say, so in a process that you mentioned, I didn't hear you say data queue. Like, are you guys data queuing before y'all fight the violation citation, or are y'all data queuing afterwards? Right? I'm asking that question because I'm assuming that they're data queuing, even though they're probably not. Because I don't want them to think, I think that they're crazy enough not to be. So I just asked that question that way. And John says, oh, well, actually, we don't always data queue. Like, I don't really, we tried that a couple of times and it didn't work. Same thing that Anthony Norris just said. Now I see what the problem is, right? I see a problem because it takes 3 or 4 times, right? Is that correct, John? It takes quite a few times for that data queue to work correctly when they do it. And a lot of times those trucking companies will get frustrated because they don't really know the process. They data queue once, they data queue twice, it don't work, and then they throw that whole idea, in the toilet. Is that correct, John?
Well, that's correct. What I found out talking to the main attorney for examining is that a lot of times it's the language you use. You might have the education that judge in the court, but you don't use the right language, they're going to turn it down, even if you have the education or judgment. So it's they have to learn how to do it.
There you go. So that could be the problem. So if that's the problem, now we're getting them enrolled in our process and then helping them through certain things. Now don't get it misunderstood. Legal Shield does not do data queue for the trucking companies at no cost. That's not part of what the plan does. But we know that that's a problem, and there's several ways to solve that problem once we get them enrolled in the plan. So again, these conversations, which turn into consultations, make so much more sense to do it that way, because now I'm having a conversation with you about some things that you can do to better your business. On the back end, do I offer something that can help with that? Yes, but let's have a conversation first so that we're comfortable with each other. And then when I say, well, if you try to do it this way, or if you do it that way, this may help better if you do this, and what about this, and what about that? You're having this conversation, which turns into, so how do I do that in that way? Well, if your drivers all have the plan, now you don't have to worry about that because, right? And then it's, well, how much is the plan going to cost me? Well, it's not going to cost you anything. The drivers pay for it individually. And now these doors are opening up in these conversations because you're having a conversation, you're asking questions, you're asking them about their process because they see that you're trying to assist them in dealing with the fact that their safety score is not in the place that it should be to prevent them from getting unnecessarily automated, if that makes sense. And this is why the research makes so much more sense. This is why asking the question that Anthony asked in the beginning, which is who handles those things? Who handles? Not assuming that the company owner does, not assuming that the safety manager does, right? Asking who handles that so that you know that you're pitching to the right person. So put a 3 in the chat if you've ever got somebody on the phone and did your thing, did your spiel, and then after you finish doing your right, you feel like you pat yourself on the back like, I hammered that. And that person says, well, unfortunately, I'm not the one that handles that. The person that handles that is not in right now. So if you give us a call back and you're like, no, I did not just throw my best presentation away. Because you did not ask, were you speaking to the right person? Or you do this, you think you're doing a decision maker appointment, but it's a business partner that's not there. And the business partner is who makes the decisions. And you just sold the junior partner, right, on your services, and now you got to do it all over again because the right person is not on the phone. And these are all things that prevent us from closing the deal and frustrates us and makes us say, you know what, this process don't work for me. Let me move on to something else. So now these are some really, really, really good nuggets here on this topic. John, anything else?
I was going to say, try and incorporate a question in there that you already know the answer to. That way they know they're being honest with you. And I think you already kind of covered that, is asking like just a question, you know the answer. And if they're not being honest with you, then you might be, might have to move on.
Correct. And that's another, I think, is a good nugget for everybody, especially if you're new. Once you learn the SMS report, and then once you pull whatever you're going to pull, like I said, I like the 5s. I mean, the 10s, got to understand that the driver's going to lose his CDLs. If he or she gets another one within the 3-year period. Also understand that the driver only have one CDL. So they can also lose their CDLs in their personal vehicles, on their motorcycle, on their boat. There's so many on vacation. And a lot of times they don't know that they could be driving on a suspended driver license because they don't watch, the MVRs and their PSPs. They don't know what's going on. There's a lot of things they don't know. And then next thing you know, they get pulled over. They're driving on a suspended driver license with a lot of fines. And now there's freight sitting on there and it's a lot of trouble for everybody. So that's why for me, I like the 10s. That's a hint. because then I stick with it. I don't get jump around. And the key thing is I ask questions, because the person asking the question, in my opinion, I heard it all the time, is who in charge, is the person in charge. And I guide them where I want to go. If they ask a question, I will answer it, but I make sure I get back to, where I was at.
So let me jump back to something, because and I want everybody on here to y'all gotta pay attention to John, because John Hoffman slick. John Hoffman he always keep a poker face, and John Hoffman don't never get excited, but he always say something that's like, you gotta catch John, because John don't get it. When John about to drop a nugget, you can't, his body language don't tell you that. So he just said something that in the sales world is like, he could do a whole conference on that. John just said, ask questions you know the answer to. And you guys know how important that is?
That's huge.
Like, that is a massive, massive nugget in the world of sales. Ask questions that you already know the answer to. That serves so many purposes. One, you know whether they're lying to you or not, like whether they're a liar. You also know whether they know what they're talking about their own business or not, because you know the answer to the question, right? So what you're doing is you're prepping, because you're saying, well, let me ask this question because I know the answer to this, but let me see if this guy knows his real status. Let me see if this person really knows what's going on in their industry or with their company or whatever the case may be. So something that Anthony Norris mentioned a minute ago about those violations, them losing their CDL if they get two of those within a year. And Anthony Norris might propose that question, knowing that, and say, yeah, I really, one of the main things, John, I wanted to talk to you about is you got this one vehicle that's got the same violation twice, and I'm just assuming it's the same driver in this vehicle, where this violation could actually get them to lose their license, because if it happens twice in 1 year, that's it. Like, are you familiar with that happening with that driver? Now he's asking that question because he wants to make sure that company understands that a driver getting that heavy violation twice in a year, they could lose their license, which means or get their license suspended, I should say, so that driver can no longer drive, which means what? They got a truck sitting in their yard that they can't put out there because they don't have a driver to put it out there, and it's hard to get drivers right now. So that's kind of a setup question. So if anybody on here knows anything about sales, it's never said the way John said it, but that's exactly what it is. You ask questions that you already know the answer to, because you are now engaging that person to see whether they're a prospect or a suspect.
Yes.
So I feel bad for people who missed this call, because that's really important nugget there. Anthony?
Yeah, and another thing, I know there's some new people here. Somebody saying something. One thing that I also keep in my head is find a problem. That's what the SMS is for. So it's three things: find a problem, agitate it, then offer your solution. Find a problem, agitate it, then offer your solution. So the SMS report, I'm looking for that problem. Then when I call, okay, to talk to the right person, then I'm gonna share what I found, and then my job and responsibility through my question is to agitate it a little bit, by certain questions. And that example is, if I use the 5, sir, ma'am, are you aware that you have 5 drivers that is one serious violation from losing their commercial driver's license for 60 days? Huh? What? Yeah, that's why I called. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Are you aware of that? Well, what are you talking about? Now that open up that conversation. Okay. Then I can go through some other questions we don't have time to go through, right? But I gave you a little bit, but that's where I go with it. And then if they say, no, we're good, I'm not interested, okay, I then transition into get another appointment with them, or closing and keeping the door open for later. So if they told me something like, I'm good, you don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Norris, you don't know this, I'm working with somebody, whatever they say, I make sure I have a good close. I say, great. I tell you what, sir, ma'am, just in case one of your drivers that I'm talking about that you say is good, just in case that driver come to you and say, hey, or you call, they call you and say, I'm on the road and they said my CDLs is suspended and I can't move. Can you do me one huge favor? And 99% of the time they will say, yes, I will. That person you're talking to, because they try to get off the phone. I said, can you see my phone number? Most of them got the caller ID. I say, yes, that's my personal cell phone number. My name is Anthony Norris. When that happens, because this is how I save face. If there's something you cannot do to reinstate that driver license, can you please give him or her my cell phone number so I can try to do what I can possibly do with our services to help them save their home? Because as you know, ma'am or sir, nobody can afford to lose 1 month, but let alone 3 months. Okay, nobody can afford it. Now you're talking about foreclosures and dreams lost. I understand that the truckers are the heartbeat of America, and that's why I called you, because I've seen this problem. Would you do that for me? And 99.9% they say, yes, I will. And I say, great, put it on a sticky note and stick it right on your window in the event that happens. But also feel free to call me anytime you want to, ma'am or sir, if you have some questions that you think about later. That fair? They say yes. So I get off the phone with the door still open, but that also what I'm going to do, I'm going to monitor them, right, for 2 weeks to a month, because I will call them back.
Good stuff. Good
Dunbar.
stuff. So
Hey,
John.
Saranda.
Oh, Sharanda. Okay, there you go. Also, there you go. Go ahead, Sharanda.
No. I was just gonna jump in. I just got through a Zoom.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I was listening. So kudos, Anthony, on your new group. Absolutely. And I will say with Anthony with the questions, because I know the questions are important, and he's mastered that. And a lot of people on here are probably trying to figure out the questions. But I know Anthony will agree, and a few others will as well. And John and Dunbar will too. You got to know this plan, because his questions, the questions, like John said, you ask questions because you know the answer, but you also ask questions to tailor the close, right? The value proposition. But if you don't know the plan, you're just spinning your wheels and you're scratching your head on what the next question is. But the goal is to close the sale, and the questions lead you to do that.
Yes.
And so his questions are tailored because he knows the problem, like he said, but he also knows the plan. You have to know what the plan does, because he knows they have a problem, but somewhere in his questioning, he's got to get back to the close.
Yep.
And he's going to continue to ask those questions, because every question leads to the close. And the close is the plan. But if you don't know the plan, you'll continue to pull for straws and hope they say yes just because, without really hearing everything he has to, continue to ask and help with. So kudos to you, Anthony. Awesome job, Dunbar and John, for your questioning. But and the questions come too from continue to make calls. I saw the chat too, asking about, Anthony's method is just being out and about. They train on different sites, but if you don't make the call, somebody can pour you a whole bucket of leads. If you don't make the call, you won't learn what to say. If you make the call and have a call with somebody, you'll be surprised at what you learn from that one call when you make the next dial. So for those that wondering, that have the questions on here, the challenge is make a couple of dials this week. And from all Anthony has shared tonight, just pick a couple of questions and see, can you have some dialogue? But I will say the plan, knowing our plan will bring the posture, and therefore somehow they'll open up to you and start to talk to you. And you probably sat on this call long enough to know you can have some dialogue with them. So be confident in that, knowing that. So kudos to you, Anthony. Awesome job. Congratulations. Kick off to January. That's amazing. So back over to you, Dunbar.
No, I think what you, because I was going to mention, because Clark Burton had jumped in the chat too and asked about what's the consulting questions that Anthony asked. Clark Burton also asked, was there email already that we have put together that we send out to companies, just like a scripted email? And I don't have one. And the reason why I don't have one is because this industry is different. And the questions that you ask, for the most part, are based on what happens when you research the company.
Right.
It's hard to say, what do you, hey, so what do you, Sharanda, John, Anthony, whoever, what do you ask? Bob, what do you say when you call a company?
But see,
I
Dunbar,
say it's relative to what I saw when I researched the company, because it's not always going to be the same.
but see, Dunbar, and I know you can ask John this, but that's the thing too. Anthony just told you guys he learned to research the company. We all have learned to research the company. Anthony has always been this guy. Anthony has always lived on the 10s. I don't care, no matter what we talk, Anthony has always focused on the 10s. And if you don't know what the 10s are, go watch the training and that'll tell you. But he has always been that guy for research. He's always been fascinated because that was his thing. He can talk about the 10s. You ask John when he researched, what does he focus on? And I'm probably sure it's something, well, we know John hotspot is he wants the company that just went through an audit. He wants the company that has high fines because he knows he can have a easier conversation with somebody who has a fine of $17,000 sitting on their desk when he can bring a solutions to that. Me, when I research, I'm researching, I want the guy too who has bad numbers. I mean, I can talk to the new and the old, but I definitely want the guy who got the bad numbers. And so you got to find out what is it about our plan that you can talk about confidently after you research that company, and then your questions will generate from that.
And that's spot on, Sharanda. Yep. Spot on.
Hey, Mr. Dunbar, can you hear me?
Yeah, who's that? I hear you, but now I can't see who it is.
Clark Burton up
Oh,
here.
Clark, what's going on? I can't see. There's so much going on this screen. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man, I appreciate this call, the training, and getting back into the CDLP world. But I was commenting on, I wasn't asking the questions about his consulting questions because I know what the questions are. I've been on that world before, but it's been a long time. But I'm just saying his consulting questions were great. That's what I should have put great behind there. That's what I meant to say about Anthony. That was some good stuff. So that's a good training. So my big concern was on the Facebook group CDLP page. Is there a file with sample emails that you can send out? Because I've done a sample of emails that you guys send out from time to time that catch people's attention. I'll turn it back over to you.
I don't think there's any on the Facebook page. I've got some emails that I can forward to you that I've actually sent to companies for an example, but I don't think there's any in the page. I don't know whether John or Sharanda know whether there's any.
My email is just a recap of what we talked about or what I wanted to talk about. So, if I was to send an email and I didn't talk to him, it would be what just saying, well, I mean, that's a training too, but you want to talk about the numbers a little bit. If I talk to him, I can't, because a lot of times people will say, send me something. And so we I recapped that with what we talked about. Thank them for their time. As I mentioned, who I am, and what we talked about. I mentioned to you about, your numbers and what these numbers can do for you. And we spoke briefly about the program that I could, that we offer. I still would like to calendar some time with you to follow up or speak more about that. But I'm getting more into the email marketing like Dunbar is talking about before I talk to him, because that will give me more people to connect with. But it's mine, and they know that by me. Mine is going to be a scare tactic. So, it's going to be all about that SMS. They might even have a little bit of it in there, but my email marketing is definitely going to be a scare tactic. And it's still brief though. And at the end, I'm still going to ask for the appointment.
I like it.
So just think about what you would say to them, Clark, and if you got them and if you didn't get them. Don't make it a book. Just make it something hot where they, even if they don't look at your email, even if they don't respond to that first email, but you keep showing up with some stuff. And I will say on the accountability call, a lot of those people use HubSpot, which is free, but they get excited because HubSpot tells them all the openings. And that's something when you're prospecting, sending emails, and you don't know if they're opening or not. When you see somebody open your email 27 times, you'll want to do it again. So you just gotta find out what works for you. But I would say, just whatever you're gonna say, just make it brief and send it. Can't be wrong. Dunbar just showed you how to subject lines are important. That's fanatical prospecting. So he just told you, I think briefly, when I got on, he was talking about that. So I think we all have just figured that out ourselves. So John, Dunbar.
That's good stuff. I appreciate that, Ms. Ivan and Mr. Dunbar. I heard Mr. Dunbar talk about the emails last week and then heard it again. Anthony talked about it, and that's all right. Let me ask this question about emails, but no, I appreciate that. But you said keep it brief, like Jason Lavender say, keep it brief, baby, keep it brief.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And John, you got a response to that on emails?
Well, I know when you email something, I never send anything that's Legal Shield identified. It'll be like the orange sheet, for adjudication of citations, or I even have a survey that I created for CDLP that's designed to get yes answers to it. Like we have on our Legal Shield, used to have a survey, but I put some CDLP questions in there, and it's just saying if you can answer yes to 2 or more of these questions, you need our product. And I stopped referring to our product as a membership. I think the membership has got a negative tone to it. So it's either a service or a product.
Program.
People think about memberships, think about gym memberships. They go, well, they never use it, but a product, they can use.
Sharanda, you on mute.
I see Cynthia Ware asked the question, how many times you follow up? You follow up until they tell you not to. It's no rhyme or rhythm to this, guys. You just got to figure it out, like what works for you. Dunbar, he done said it a couple of times tonight. You got to find out what ticks, what works, what clicks. And trucking, this process can be long sometimes because if you're dealing with smaller companies, they're busy. And you can call somebody today and have a great conversation. They say call back tomorrow at 10 and they don't pick up. Now you feel some type of way. You got to understand they're busy. They're the dispatcher. They're the safety. They're the everything, the small companies. But then too, you can deal with a big company too. And his whole day can get thrown upside down in a matter of minutes. So you follow up as long as you feel comfortable enough doing it. But what I find, Cynthia, with follow up, because sometimes you can feel like you're bugging people, one thing for me for follow-up, I now, to get that off of me feeling some type of way, I would say, before I hang up, Robert, so, I know you asked me to send you an email, or, maybe he just say, maybe not right now, whatever. I'm gonna say, Robert, like Anthony told you, Anthony say he always asks, you right? I would say, so I don't feel no type of way when I call and he don't pick up. I'm gonna say, Robert, when is a good time for me to follow up with you? I can get this email out to you probably within 24 hours. When is a good time for me to follow up with you? A couple of days, maybe if it's on a Tuesday, I maybe say the next Tuesday. And he'll say, in a week. I had a guy tell me on the 1st. Great. Okay. And that's when I'm gonna follow up with them. But I do that. So when I do follow up, I don't feel no type of way, because I'm gonna say, if he don't pick up, if I have a voicemail, Robert, this is Sharanda. You told me to follow up on the 1st. I was just reaching back out to you. I'll try to reach you later, or just give me a call at your earliest convenience. If he don't give me a call back, say in the next 24 to 48 hours, I'm gonna call him back.
And that's another nugget. We talked about this last week. That is another simple thing that you can do that will like completely bring your call reluctance down when it comes to follow-up. Just that one simple thing. Simply asking the prospect when they want you to call them back. Now, when you make that call back, you're more excited and energetic about it, because in your mind, you're saying they told me to call them back at this time. So you're thinking, I'm supposed to call Norman back. I'm supposed to call Roncia back. I'm supposed to call Isaac back, because they suggested that you call back at that time. And when you're making calls, we know that that can be a little bit stressful when you're making dials if you're a person that don't like to make calls. When you got 30 calls to make and 7 of them, people ask you to call them back, it changes the trajectory of making those calls. Is that fair to everybody? So do those little small tweaks. Those are the little small things, like John said, asking questions that you know the answer to. The questions that Anthony were talking about. A nugget like, ask them, when should I call back? Now you eliminate that in your mind, because you got workflow going. And you like, I'm dialing. I got an hour to make calls. I've got 2 hours to make calls. And now you're saying, man, should I call this guy back? I called him a week ago. I don't know if I should call him again. Am I bugging him? You're losing time. Your workflow is stopped because you're trying to figure out whether you should call somebody, when if you had asked them that in the first place when you hung up with them, you would already know to call them, that you're supposed to call them at this time, right? So it's very helpful for you to be able to do that when you're moving forward on those calls. On the emails, guys, when you can start getting to email marketing, the answer to that question is never. Never. When you get on my email list, you're on it forever, because because the email changes, right? So I'm going to email Adrian until he buys. Once he buys, now he's getting customer service emails. Now he's getting emails asking him about feedback. Now he's getting email, right? So you guys are customers of Legal Shield, not just independent associates. Outside of you being an associate, doesn't Legal Shield still email you on the customer side? Email marketing doesn't stop when you become a customer. So you email them. Every email that you come up with that you're going to send out, that's because I follow 80-20. 80% education, 20% sales. So 80% of my emails is just education anyway. So I'm sending that email out. So everybody on my list is getting that email, because it's not always a follow-up email asking them, hey, I haven't heard from you, what's going on? That's not what the email says. The email is more information that's helpful to them, because all I'm doing is keeping my name and my company name in their face. Because when that person keeps looking at their safety score, when that person keeps seeing violations and citations, when that person gets audited or has the fear of getting audited, or the phone rings and they get a voicemail that says something about their safety score, and they're thinking, I know my safety score is screwed up, it's just a matter of days before I get audited. This is what they're thinking, and then they see an email from you. Not a sales email, just something that says blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, that's the guy that was talking to me about that. You know what, let me see, let me contact this guy. Let me respond to this guy. Hey, I hadn't heard from you, blah, blah, blah. Do y'all help with this? And now you can pick up the phone and call. The great thing about email is its constant touches. That's why we do email campaigns. That's why you have to unsubscribe from my email. So right now, if you get emails from me, you're going to get them bad boys till you die unless you hit that unsubscribe button. I'm not going to feel no type of way about it because I got my system set up to keep emailing you forever because you said you were interested in something. They said they were interested in Legal Shield. You email them. But don't email them shoving that process down their throat. Email them things that says, do you know this is coming up? Do you know that's coming up? Do you know this many trucking companies just got hit? And if you have this kind of service, it helps. You're always emailing them something that they want to open, right? You heard Sharanda say she's going to scare them to death. She's going to send them something that she going to put the fear of God in them so that they call her because they like, this lady can help me get out this jam. And really, she psychologically put them in the jam. And then she pulls them out, right? So that is her tactic. You've got to know the emails aren't going to stop. That's why you need a HubSpot or something. So for you all that's saying I'm gonna send some emails and you're using Gmail, you're gonna work yourself to death. You need to put them on an email campaign where you can send 1,000 emails, 100 emails out at the same time, and they all call a person by their name. Isaac, did you know? Rancia, when the last time did you? Norman, did you know that you could, right? Mahmoud, did you know that your safety score affects? It needs to say their name so that they feel like you're talking to them. And when you keep emailing and emailing and emailing and emailing, somebody, and one of those emails are going to hit their inbox while they're in a situation or they're feeling some type of way about something that's going on. And then that's going to cause them to respond to that email. But guess what? Those emails are on automation. So you're not sending them personally. You put them in your campaign and let the campaign run. And now you go out and do more prospecting. That's the benefit to email marketing right there, is that you don't have to be sitting there typing all of those emails. Because I know y'all don't think I'm sitting in my office sending them 4 emails a day y'all get from me. Because I'm not sending them that way. They're on automation and they go out because I know that, right? I know that Norman might see my email and ignore it. He might just see the subject line, oh, that's some dumb. He said another email, I ain't gonna open the email. I know that that's the problem. I know that, but at some point, he gonna see an email and it's gonna be relative to the time or how he feels right now. And it might be the 150th email. It doesn't matter. When he sees it, he says, I need to call this dude. I need to respond to this email. That's exactly how it's gonna work with email marketing. So you create that campaign, you constantly give them good information. How do you get the good information? You subscribe to some of these trucking newsletters and then pull the information that they're sending you and send that out to trucking companies, but send it on your brand. Did you know that? We can help with this. Do you know that this is about to happen? Did you see that they passed this law? Did you know that if you get audited, did you know this? Did you know you come up with all these and you're gonna realize that those are touches. When they say 5 to 7 touches to make yourself, those emails are touches. And like Sharanda said, HubSpot will let you know that they opened it. And I use that data because data is how you run a business. So if I go look at my data and I say John, Anthony, and Sharanda opened up the most emails that I sent, right? I'm reaching out to them. I might send a specialized email out to them, right? Because I know that they're opening those emails. So just keep in mind, guys, prospecting, it goes back to the book that Sharanda always talks about, man, fanatical prospecting. You got to know that you can't just do one thing. You can't just knock on doors. You can't just make phone calls. You can't just send emails. You got to be a fanatical prospector. And that's what that's about. You got to know that different people get information different ways, right? So we way over. It's 9:52. We always we way over today. John, you gonna say something, John?
No, I'll talk about my group next week because I'll have it in hand by then. But I want to share a success story next week too of how Legal Shield uses CDLP plan and the business plan together with one ticket.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah. And I didn't forget about your story, John. We were so into this. I didn't want to start talking to you with 10 minutes left and push you through yours. So next week, guys, we're gonna be talking to John about the group that he's opening, in the process of opening. So you gotta take some more notes and see a different style. Because John's way of opening a group is going to be different than Anthony's way of opening the group. So now you're going to see a whole nother group opening style. And we're going to ask John questions next week to talk about what he did from start to finish so that you guys can use that information to benefit from. So John is doing the next training, right, John? Do you have a date on that? What's the date on the next training, the CDL training?
I think it's February 11th. Is that right? The next training, CDLP training? Yeah, February 11th.
February 11th. So make sure you guys are plugged in. February 11th. Whenever you get the flyer, John, just send it to me, or just whatever, so I can put it up on the CDL page, or if you drop it on the CDL page yourself, I'll grab it from there and put it on the banner. This is fine. However, it needs to be done. And Sharanda Ivy has a call on Thursday. So for those, because I spoke to 2 people from last week to this week that were asking me about is there any calls where people are making calls? They don't make calls on that call that Sharanda does, but those people that are on that call, for the most part, are a little bit more engaged in the process on the Thursday night call. So Sharanda's call on Thursday, make sure you're part of that accountability call to make sure that you can move forward on that as well. I appreciate y'all guys throwing the questions here on the right-hand side, because that really does help us, so that we're helping you guys directly, as opposed to just talking about what we decide we want to talk about. Of course, thank you, Anthony Norris, for being putting yourself out there, because even though it was really Anthony was going over what he did it in a training sense, because Anthony has been talking so long on calls and stuff, he knows how to train when he talks. So you kind of got some training from Anthony as well here. So I think this was a really great call this week, and hopefully you can take those nuggets and use them to up your confidence to really make some calls and close some of these deals and get some of these trucking companies, because they need the help. There's not a lot of people doing what we do. I mean, you see it, is 30, 40 people on this call every week in a company full of probably 500,000 associates. I mean, it's not a lot of people. You're not going to run into a lot of other associates doing offering this particular product in those companies, guys. So it's an opportunity for you to really go out there and really slam dunk that thing. So any of our other trainers got anything to say before we close out? Good.
Can I say something real quick too?
Yes, sir.
We always say it, but I give thanks to the trainers, because they give us all these nuggets for free. So I encourage you guys to tap into them. They mention all the time about field trainers. If you don't know, get you a field trainer. Do what you're supposed to do, get you a field trainer and take some notes. And then just educate yourself. So I give thanks to all your trainers here, for again, just pouring into us. And the best reward for any trainer, guys, is when you go out here and you do it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Much appreciation, much love.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Good
Good night,
stuff.
Let's take care.
We'll see you guys next
Thank
week.
you.
Same bad time, same bad channel. You got any questions, anything, just go to the Facebook page and put them there. We appreciate you guys sticking around for 30 minutes longer than y'all should have been. So you guys have a
All right.
fantastic rest of y'all's evening.
Thank
Okay,
you.
you guys do the same.
Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Thank
bye
you.
now.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Aloha.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.